There needs to be a recognition that maybe you were wrong. The highlighting of your left flank as the real scary enemies is directly a consequence of your own petty grievances. What is this? I am an anti-fascist, okay? This administration is a fascist one. I am an anti-fascist. What doing? What's next? Are they going to openly go, nope, we are a fascist government now? They're going to just say that? Is that what we're doing? Because anti-fascism is just fascism. Bro, don't say that right now. Oh, what? Out of here, dude. Listen, you need to understand something, okay? These people are not strong. Weak. They fear you being united, okay? We have the numbers. There are Americans of good conscience everywhere. And because they're so fearful that if the people stand united, that they'll be defeated, they try to pick apart. They try to divide the masses. They try to make an example out of people. And when institutions don't actually respond in defense of the citizens, in a country like the United States of America especially, if institutions don't respond, if people don't respond, if they actually obey in advance, then regardless of how weak they are, regardless of how fearful they are, they win. And it doesn't stop. When they get a victory, they do not stop. That just emboldens them to dig deeper. This is how it works. There is a lot of discontent against this administration. They do not have the numbers. They can't even get the National Guard to be deployed everywhere. They can't do that. And even if they were to do that, there is no guarantee of success because the National Guard is also comprised of your there's no guarantee that those guys are going to be like, all right, well, we're loyal servants of fascism now. I've seen it. I saw the 29 Palms Marines when I went out there at the ICE protests in LA. They didn't want to be there. They were just around. They were sleeping on concrete floors because the administration is so goddamn stupid. I know Trump says he will designate Antifa as a terrorist organization and launch a probe into it. I need you to understand, they are weak. These are the actions of a weak administration. These are not the actions of a strong administration. If they were strong, they wouldn't feel the need to stamp out any sort of discontent. If they were strong, they wouldn't feel the need to try to put the fear of God in your hearts, in your minds, in your soul, to stop you, to make you think twice before you engage in any sort of anti-fascist action, before you engage in any sort of demonstration, because they are afraid. It is upon all of us to make sure that we don't stand down. I am an anti-fascist.
Damn, I popped off on that one. That's crazy. I guess like one of the worst aspects of this, one of the scariest aspects of this this attitude change from the administration is that they're like leaning more comfortably in the fascist direction, or at least like openly recognizing that they are fascist, because that's what comes next. This has been the most like I told you so for years week in my career, I think. Whether it be all of my warnings towards liberals and their lack of anger and lack of discontent against censorship when it was like annoying pro-Palestine campus activism, or whether it be all of the centrist political content creators that I kept saying were aligning themselves with right-wingers in an effort to deplatform people like myself. I kept telling them, it's not going to stop with me. It will eventually come for you as well. Because the goal here isn't just to eradicate the radicals. And also, make no mistake, nothing I'm saying is radical anyway. I think it's more radical to be a fascist. I think it's more insane to be an administration that ran on mass deportation in a country that is comprised entirely of migrants. We are a nation of migrants. No one here, with the exception of Native Americans, who withstood the genocide of from the initial pilgrims, the settlers. No one here is a Native American, you know? Everyone's an immigrant. We're descendants of settlers and then descendants of immigrants. So the notion that we're going to do mass deportations in the country is so insane. It is un-American. It is anti-American, right? Opposing that, resisting that is a moral imperative. It's not just a political stance or a political ideology. It's the right thing to do. No matter how much these guys try to stamp it out, no matter how much these guys try to attack it. And those who actually tried to present a centrist position for the longest time, those who sat on the fence for the longest time, are now suffering the repercussions themselves. I've seen it. One example that I will obviously get to, one example that I'll talk about is the whole, hold on, is the Destiny stuff that's taking place right now. You know, this guy used malicious smears and clips out of context and even aligned himself with right-wing heads for the longest time to try to actively deplatform me. And now those right heads are coming after him too and are successfully deplatforming him. Yeah, and using Dan Seltman's dumbass website as a reference. Bro, I don't think you guys understand. It's not even just Dan Saltman. Like, Destiny has an entire Wikipedia page designed to literally tar and feather every single prominent leftist account. They literally compile opposition research that the free press has used, okay? They straight up compiled opposition research on me and every other person to the left of Destiny for years and years, and now the right-wingers are using that. But it's ironic because they're also going after Destiny as well. If he had any decency beyond, you know, the CSAM distribution and whatnot, he would delete all that shit. But yeah, I saw the whole, like, he's announcing he's retiring from politics stuff. He's not going to do that. But again, this is something that I warned about for so long. It's something that I warned about over and over again to people in my community. It's something that I warned about as like a broader trend, a broader problem if left unaddressed. And the chickens are coming home to roost right now, and it's not good. Let me tell you, it's not good. He still believes you should be deplatformed, so I don't have sympathy. That is insane. So in this moment, in this very moment, when all of the right-wingers are up his ass and have successfully gotten him to be demonetized on YouTube, this dumb motherfucker still thinking I'm the problem? Oh my God, brother, I cannot believe it. I mean, hey, have fun. Have fun with your... Wait till they find out about all the pedophilia that you've done. Wait till they find out about, like, I don't know, a million other instances where you've said unimaginably violent. He got only a fraction of the return that he has tried to deal my direction for years and years at this point. God damn, dude. He doesn't think you're the problem. The dude is jaded and a jealous boyfriend. What point will his community understand, like, because his community is not that big. But his community is like very, very dedicated, right? They love doing troll ops. They love doing like smear operations. They can do a sophisticated smear campaign, right? They can do a sophisticated smear campaign. So the very fact that they're not actually using all of their effort and all of those initiatives against the right, even in this very moment, and still at the mercy, at the whims of their cult leader who just despises me is crazy. Okay, it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, let me blast off and then let's keep going. It's the same with Klein. Like, it's so obvious. If you are at this very moment when fascism is at our doorstep, or okay, when it's here, and it's not only like, you know, knocking on your door, it's knocking down your neighbor's doors, and your only opinion as a super wealthy guy living in Bel Air mansion is like, you know who's really at fault here? This guy that I personally hate. Your audience needs to snap out of it, dude. You got to snap out of it. You got to snap out of it. I know those guys won't because they're just petty, narcissistic. They're deeply unserious people. Speaking of people who are aligned with one another, of course, there is Sex Pestany, right? He has, alongside Nooks Taku and numerous other like supposedly apolitical slop tubers and VTubers alike, have found himself in a little bit of trouble. Here's how it is. Some of you know this. Many of you might not know this. Maybe you saw like clip slam dunk compilations of Sex Pestany for the longest time and you don't fully understand what his worldview is. The easiest summarization of this, of course, is that he just despises me with his entire soul and will go to any length to try to either deplatform me or have me killed. I mean, he has actually issued death threats against me in the past, only a month ago, as a matter of fact. And he has aligned himself with neo-Nazis such as Sam Hyde when he was doing his whole, like, I'm going to do Hasan Piker shtick. Again, another neo-Nazi. He has aligned himself with Nick Fuentes in the past as well. Openly talking about how he actually gave Nick Fuentes a platform.
And and Fuentes' treatment of me is so bad. I don't understand. That's something he'll have to learn and grow. not to sound like not to be too self-aggrandizing, but like Fuentes should be worshiping me because I am literally I was the only lifeline that he had to like being able to breach like mainstream political conversations. Like I represented a huge potential opportunity to him, and he just was so bad faith in the way that he treats me. It's unbelievable. I don't know why he would do that. Like he should have been so conciliatory towards me, and I'm not looking for that. I'm not asking him to be anything, but for him to be like relentlessly bad faith against me all the time, like bro, who the like I can put you on a stream in front of 14,000 people. Like I'm giving you your phone number to like Adam22 so you can go to a show. Why the f you like burn my shit so hard? Like you're so stupid.
And how Nick Fuentes, who is also a neo-Nazi and has gone on dates with cat boys and things of that nature. So, you know, he's a furry neo-Nazi kind of. I don't even understand how that works, but whatever. Just so you understand, the alignment is all over the place. Destiny himself also obviously is currently engaging in a legal battle against his numerous victims, some of which he filmed without consent, some of which he did film with consent in sexual acts, but he distributed that footage to another minor that he was trying to actively have sex with. That guy, he also hates me. Anyway, he has been a major advocate to try and deplatform me for years. He has overtaken major subreddits like Livestream Fails and has been launching this conquest against me. And despite the fact that he doesn't have like a massive audience or anything, he does have a very loyal following. A lot of jobless motherfuckers sit around and basically make websites full of clips out of context. So if you see like a lot of clips out of context flying around and you're like, how do I deal with this? Where is this coming from? A lot of that has come from his community. And in the process of their deplatforming initiatives over the course of the last 2 years, post October 7, they built another website where they would try to get me deplatformed with false smears of me being an anti-Semite. And they found some advocacy groups with a little bit of institutional prowess and a little bit of institutional persuasive capabilities. The Anti-Defamation League, I like to call them the Apartheid Defense League, and numerous other Israel advocacy groups. They aligned themselves with these advocacy groups to try and actively deplatform me and many other pro-Palestinian content creators. They even went so far as to align with my former podcast co-host, Ethan Klein. You already know all of this stuff. But now, also known as Dan Saltman, are now coming after Destiny. And there have been numerous updates on this front, and it has actually backfired on him spectacularly. I'm going to start off with this point here really quickly. What is this? Hasan's haters are so stupid. This website about Hasan's anti-Semitism uses an image of a little girl lighting lamps. The image has nothing to do with Judaism. The makers of this website don't give a about anti-Semitism. Yeah, Hamas Piker Fund for Israel. Fight back against the anti-Semitism of Hamas Piker and his friends. Make a donation in honor of Piker today. Stock photo of a girl making rangoli and decorating oil lamps for Diwali. So if you want to understand, like, these guys don't give a about Judaism anyway. But yeah, they made entire websites with dedicated clips out of context, all this stuff. They have been engaging in this deplatforming. They are incredibly committed to this deplatforming initiative and this smearing initiative for many, many years. And it only actually expanded after October 7, okay? And they found a unique partner in this with the Israel lobby. They found a unique partner in this with the Israel lobby because those guys are the only ones crazy enough to continue trying to actively engage in this deplatforming initiative, because I'm one of the most prominent critics of Israel on the internet and perhaps even in North America. And these guys have all the smoke. So in that endless initiative, Destiny's podcast co-host, Dan Saltman, went to Washington, D.C. on numerous occasions. Okay? He did. By his own admission, he went to Washington, D.C. and lobbied Republican Congress members because he realized that Republicans would be the only people that were insane enough to try and engage in this deplatforming initiative. Remember, these people build themselves as liberals, okay?
You want to talk about the mission?
What's your progress going forward with Twitch?
I have congressional meetings set up, okay? That's like with more than one dude. Republicans, obviously. shifted.
What's a congressional meeting?
Well, I guess it's when there's with multiple congressmen, and it's like a fact-finding mission for them, where they go and they.
Oh my God.
Oh, stop the video. Sorry.
I'm rolling super hard right now.
Okay. All right. So a congressional video is where not a congressional video. A congressional meeting is where there's multiple of them, and they have their aides with them, their chiefs of staffs with them, and then they're trying to find out, like, okay, explain this to us, everything from start to finish, and they're taking notes, and then they're issuing subpoenas and shit like that after that based on the information of what you give.
So those very same Republican groups, of course, got very mad at Destiny, because Destiny never holds back and has no interest whatsoever. He wears it like a badge of honor to say some of the most unhinged things you've ever heard, okay? And that he keeps the same energy when he's talking about people to his left flank, and it obviously makes things a lot easier when he does that, but he also keeps that same energy and the interest in dying on any hill, no matter how unhinged it is, when he's attacking the Republicans. So he started, obviously, the Republicans in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassination, including saying things such as, the Republicans need to be in an environment of fear. Some of the things he actually said that people are yelling at him over weren't even unreasonable. He talked about how the president should be lowering the temperature. I agree with that. But of course, Republicans don't agree with that. So they've been coming after him and using at least some of the clips, many of it accrued over his almost 15-year broadcasting career, against him now. But now Dan has backed away, even though he kept repeatedly making calls for my deplatforming over and over again, every single day over the past 2 years, as a matter of fact, tagging Leo Terrell, tagging Laura Loomer, tagging prominent Republicans in Congress over and over again, where he said, Dan Saltman just told Hasan Piker he played no role in lobbying Congress to enact censorship on Twitch. Here's Dan Saltman talking to Lonerbox about how he set up a meeting with multiple Republican congressmen to talk about cracking down on Twitch. I am not sure if Hasan is trying to blame myself or, in parentheses, Jews for this, but for clarity's sake, I have not talked, emailed, DM'd, or had any communication with anyone involved with this directly or indirectly. They chose to investigate Twitch all by themselves. I had no idea this was coming or even in the works until it hit the news. Here he is crying that the clip was from 10 months ago, but here's where he explains his motivation and takes credit for creating the circumstances for the crackdown. I may have pushed this snowball to the top of the hill, but the avalanche is out of my hands. Now, what's really interesting about this statement is that this has happened in the past as well. Like when Twitch banned the word Zionist. That was also at his direction. That is something that he petitioned for. That is something that he campaigned for. That is something that he worked alongside the ADL with to accomplish. And when it happened and people got mad, he said, oh, I didn't do this. I don't even think it's a good idea. He says, this is on 2025, 9/15, okay? I have no control over it, meow, but the avalanche is out of my hands. Gulag, I may have pushed this snowball to the top. I laughing, I just woke up, lol. My single issue, TTD, which means total Twitch death. I'm a single issue voter. I can focus on my one thing. Other people are focused on very important things. Kaiser, one enemy at the time. I have a different view on effectiveness than Destiny on this. Look, I understand the pushback. The more we ignore it, the more we lose. My plan is an accelerationist view that the faster the mainstream media can eject far left radicals, the stronger and better the Democratic Party will be to win. And if our shoelaces are tied together, we are from the start. But it's like we need to get dressed and put our boxing gloves to do it. And I want to fight it. I'm not R-worded. I understand who's in charge right now and what's going on. Yes, this person is also 50 years old. I know I read it in the wrong order. It actually is bottom to up. Okay, this is in the private chat room that they have that is DGG. They're probably watching right now, as a matter of fact. They watch my stream probably more than they watch Destiny's own stream, as a matter of fact. All right, anyway, here he is, also trying to reveal... also trying to, again, defend his position after actively agitating and actively demanding that this happens. Okay. Here he is. I want to explain why I'm particularly focused on Twitch and its promotion of extremist left voices, even as other pressing issues demand attention. While there is substantial work being done to combat fascist rhetoric from the far right, where is that, by the way? Where is that happening? I haven't seen it. I'm doing that. You're focused on me. I believe that extremist leftist tankies and Marxists pose one of the greatest threats to the Democratic Party's ability to unify and govern effectively. Their influence, though not backed by significant democratic power, has been corrosive, alienating average citizens by prioritizing ideology over practical solutions. What's ironic is it's actually the opposite. It's the Democratic Party's inability to actually lean into their left flank and boldly and proudly proclaim progressive policy positions that would be real prescriptions to the issues that average Americans feel that has caused them to lose. The Liz Cheney dynamic is the perfect example of this. You run around with Liz Cheney, you lose the election. It's that simple. So he is, I don't even think that he is being, I'm going to entertain charitably that Dan Saltman literally believes this, okay? I'm going to entertain the notion that he actually subscribes to this policy, this principle, the notion that like it's actually the tankies that are the reason for the Democratic Party's demise, right? Maybe he genuinely believes it. Maybe he genuinely believes it. The irony, of course, is that it's wrong. And the past election has proven this to be wrong. Zoran Mamdani has proven this to be wrong over and over and over again. This is the reason why the party has failed. This is the reason why there's so much discontent at a time when the Democratic Party, as the left flank, as the counterbalance to the growing discontent against the Republicans that are in charge, should be super popular, but they're not. And it's because of this like centrist presentation that they're not. For Democrats to successfully unify and fight against the rising tide of right-wing extremism, we cannot afford to have our own efforts sabotaged by agitators within our ranks. These individuals are not interested in compromise or success. They seek only to see the party fail so they can smugly say, I told you so. If that was the case, I would not be actively working within the Democratic Party in ways that are infinitely more meaningful than whatever this dipshit is doing, where he aligns with Republicans to deplatform me. I'm the one who's going out and trying to get people to door knock for Democrats. He's the mother who is, again, aligning with Republicans to deplatform me. These guys love talking about how much work they want to put in to fight the far right, but then they align with the far right. How the f does that work? Twitch plays a uniquely harmful role in this dynamic. Unlike platforms such as Twitter or Reddit, where multiple viewpoints can circulate, Twitch disproportionately amplifies far left voices while suppressing others. This is also incorrect, and this is the reason why they have coped themselves into aligning with Asmongold and even Tectone. They know that there are far right voices on Twitch, okay? They know that. Actually, as a matter of fact, they've designed it so that there is at least a lot of pressure on Twitch to amplify right-wing voices. Asmongold hasn't been streaming because his dad recently passed away, but Asmongold, until he stopped streaming for the past month or so, was literally the biggest political commentator in North America, and he very much had a right-wing position. He was pro-Trump. Yes, rest in peace to Asmon Dad, of course. Twitch disproportionately amplifies far-left voices. They let the troubling incidents, such as silently blocking Israeli signups for a year. He still keeps bringing up this false, fake bullshit and hosting anti-Semitic content at official events. He won't say what it is. He's talking about the Sabra hummus tier list. That's what he's saying is an anti-Semitic event, an anti-Semitic incident. Of course, he'll never openly say that, because if he were to openly reveal that that's what he was pushing for, then people are going to be like, that's a laughable notion. Shut up. The platform's influence among young audiences makes this even more concerning, especially given the CEO's stated goal of reaching children as young as 8. When extremist voices are elevated for clicks and moderate voices are ignored, it creates a deeply unhealthy and dangerous environment. This is the same dumbass right-wing perspective, which is, why are our voices not popular? Why is Hutch not a more popular voice? Okay, I don't know. But I think you should probably think about that on your own time instead of actively trying to silence dissent against that position. Okay? Maybe it's because he's wrong all the time. And people go, I don't really want to take my notes from a guy who's wrong all the time. I respect and trust the ongoing efforts to combat the far right. He doesn't. But I believe it's equally critical to address harm caused by our side's extremists. If we do not remove these voices from positions of influence within the Democratic Party, we will severely undermine our ability to tackle larger political challenges. We cannot go into 2026 with candidates campaigning on unrealistic policies like forced gun buybacks or universal health care. Universal health care is an unrealistic policy.
These unattainable goals only solidify our losses. At the moment, the right is targeting far-left influencers like Hasan Piker. If their efforts render these extremist policies politically toxic, I see no reason to intervene. As Napoleon famously said, never interrupt when your enemy when he is making a mistake. Every day, puff pieces are published celebrating these extremists and pushing them as the left Joe Rogan. This is a mistake. They should form their own party and leave Democrats free to focus on achievable pragmatic goals. We need social Democrats, not democratic socialists. He literally just said universal health care is an unrealistic policy, then claims that he's a social Democrat. What are you talking about? It's the most pivotal achievement of social democracy, and it exists everywhere. Half the time, it feels as though we are arguing with, and that is because we are. Okay? I'm starting to suspect he isn't very smart. He's not. Exactly. He does this every time his campaign to bash the left backfires and inadvertently furthers right-wing causes. He pretends that he had nothing to do with it and cries that people are blaming him. Yes, they have done this over and over again. Whenever their active deplatforming initiatives actually successfully roll back some semblance of free speech and free discourse, and it actually harms left creators and even liberal creators, as a matter of fact, like queer creators and whatnot, he turns around and goes, oh, I didn't want this to happen. You did. What policies does he want? What the politics? His policies are just anti-left. His goals are just anti-left. That's all it is. And for the record, this is what actually ended up happening. So a lot of Destiny's old clips and new clips about Charlie Kirk and about Donald Trump and about political violence was then highlighted by the same Republicans that Dan Saltman had aligned himself with to try to deplatform me. Okay? And lo and behold, those guys obviously got excited to attack Destiny as well because they see him as a liberal voice. I mean, he's been on CNN, right? As like the heel to Charlie Kirk, right? They even went so far as to bring his name up in the congressional record, claiming Destiny a week prior to Charlie Kirk's assassination said Charlie Kirk's a demonic entity. And even it was such an idiotic thing to put in the congressional record that even Jim Jordan turned around and said, well, tough, that's the First Amendment, which is true, by the way. It is such a stupid take. It blows my mind that people would get mad at that. Like, what are you talking about? We can't say that our political opposition is bad. What are we doing here? Which is, of course, the goal of the Republican Party, the goal of a fascist administration. Oh, sorry, Jim Jordan didn't say that. Jerry Nadler did. Sorry. I thought it was Jim Jordan that said that. But in any case, in that environment, in this misinformation environment, Destiny, who is a rapacious troll, turned around and brought up his former Twitch ban. He was banned from Twitch a very long time ago, in like 2022 or something. Okay, he posted that and said, "Oh no, your cancellation efforts have actually harmed me. I've lost my platform on Twitch." And what's ironic is that because Republicans are so stupid, they thought that was a major victory without actually fact-checking whether or not he was actually banned. And that was even talked about on Fox News. Jesse Waters did a news hit on it, said this far-left violent man got banned off Twitch. But I suspect because that happened and because there was a lot more pressure, it seems that Destiny was actually demonetized on YouTube, okay? So what ended up happening is what he was trying to do to me for years and years and years has, with his own allies, as a matter of fact, partially because of his own allies and their endless interest in aligning with fascist Republicans who want to take out any kind of opposition, any kind of discontent, no matter how liberal, no matter how moderate those voices may be, they ended up targeting him successfully and taking away his one of his revenue streams. That is where we're at. And that's the reason why Dan Saltman has been talking about how he had nothing to do with this. He said the Yaz 2027, Trump is on life support, but still wheeled out for TV appearances. The U.S. has been in civil war for 60 months. Food is scarce. Medicine and ammunition hard to come by. Dan is tweeting about Hasan. He's even Dan. The only other community we had a bridge with torches it because Ethan's a spineless hack as well. Just such pathetic state of affairs of everyone over here. Adam Mockler is the only exception to what I said. Everyone else is a loser. See ya all in the camps. He also revealed that he no longer wants to do politics, which he's not going to do. Destiny announces he's retiring from politics and focusing on gaming. Look at how they stick together. Unreal. I think I might do this event and retire to gaming for 6 months or indefinitely. I think it should just be a conservative fascist government. People like Hutch, Pisco, CNN, etc. can do their thing. It's just way too many with zero
spine, there is no point. To which this subreddit apparently called DGG Snark, I didn't even know that there was a snark for DGG, of former Destiny fans. Destiny has been harassing and stalking Hasan and other pro-Palestinian streamers for 2 years to bring attention to himself. Now he's received 1% of the vitriol they have received and immediately gives up and succumbs to fascism. This is liberalism in a nutshell. Yeah, I mean, look, they're going... Alex Jones is doing full clip compilations about Destiny. Shocking violence. Watch leftist mouthpiece Destiny brag about planning to murder a family. Blame President Trump for Charlie Kirk's assassination. Call for more conservative deaths at rallies. Wish for the death of Devin Nunes. We are live breaking it down. Now, of course, he's not a leftist at all, but it doesn't matter to these guys. Just like I've always said, they say Nancy Pelosi's a communist. You guys are stupid. If you're a liberal and if you hate the Republican Party, okay, if you hate what the Republicans are doing to this country, if you hate the erosion of civil liberties, any moment that you spend attacking your left flank, many of which are actually out in the streets before and after the takeover of the fascists, is idiotic. It's unproductive. And there needs to be a recognition that maybe you were wrong. Okay? Maybe you were wrong. The highlighting of your left flank as the real scary enemies that are at the doorstep is directly a consequence of your own petty grievances. That's all this was, always and forever. I would go so far as to say that his fucking pro-genocide position was directly tailored off of my anti-genocide position. Like, it's all spite-based. It doesn't make any sense. It's just so incredibly dumb. Here he is, the moment of recognition where he's been demonetized off YouTube.
I feel like my YouTube is going to get permaban soon because I got like broad demonetized yesterday for that I didn't even cite a video. So I don't know. I'll appeal it. We'll see what happens. But I mean, if Kimmel is getting canceled from ABC, I don't know.
I said this for years. Here's Dan bragging he took 7 figures from you. October 1 to January 1 should be 50% of all revenue for the year. Lamau, you are such a Hasan writer. Remember that even if you got hit by a truck today and died, your daddy Hasan has lost his 7 figures in ad revenue because of me, and you can't do about it. Remember to let Hasan know that he lost 7+ figures of revenue from me, which is ironic because, once again, the only reason why I ever ran ads was because I had a contract from Twitch. Twitch doesn't offer those contracts any longer, and therefore I don't run any ads any longer. And even after that, that wasn't enough, of course. They still tried to attack the platform. So Twitch made a decision to create a new category, a political content category, which I'm on, right? So therefore, you don't see ads. My revenue stream is not off of ads. The Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the viewers. Your voluntary subscriptions keep me editorially independent. That's it. They only ended up hurting a bunch of small streamers in the long run. Okay? It's that simple. Knowing full well that because my political perspective is not broadly reflected by any mainstream party, I have always relied on my community. Okay? It's grassroots. It's always been grassroots. You cannot be a leftist and demand contributions from billionaires and millionaires. You just can't do that. The more right-wing you are on this political spectrum, the easier it is for you to get money from shadow donors and very wealthy people. A liberal has an easier time getting big donors to defend them and getting big institutions to defend them and getting big donors to give them money than a leftist does. And a right-winger has a much easier time getting those shadow donors than a liberal does. This is how it works. This is how it works. No billionaire is going to fund a prominent content creator who says billionaires should not exist. You stopped ads a month or two before October, pre-Cock Piker. Yep. What? A few seconds following the clip from earlier. He explains how justice works and, of course, is anti-Semitic.
And then they're issuing subpoenas and shit like that after that based on the information of what you give, essentially. That's how justice works. Some Jew in Miami Beach gives a PowerPoint and then a company gets brought to its knees.
So you're the one who's presenting your case against Twitch?
Yeah.
If your worldview is entirely around petty grievances that one streamer has over another, of course you're going to end up doing some idiotic in the process. Idiotic shit that ends up harming you in the long run. This is where we're at. And it's ironic because I always mention this. I mentioned this for the longest time. I said, look, if apolitical and liberal adjacent content creators are consistently focusing on their left flank and attacking their left flank and smearing their left flank, then obviously there's going to be a lot of people who associate the left flank with those smears. And you might find a little bit of success in that process. You might actually humiliate leftists and Marxists or present them as these like scary people. But what you're doing in that process is you're legitimizing the people to your right flank, because now you're the people to the right who might despise you in other circumstances are now aligned with you in attacking the left. So even if you actually achieved success in that process, even if you've completely eradicated the left, okay? Even if you completely eradicated the left, then the right is going to come after you. And we are there now. The left is not actually successfully defeated, but it doesn't matter. You're still attacking the left. These people present themselves as like these brilliant people, these skilled political beings, but they focus on petty grievances. It's all about ego. That's all this is. He felt, this man right here, who has done a ton of awful nonsense, attacking anyone to his marginally leftist position, for daring to ever criticize him, has spent most of his career in the last 6 years actively going after the left. And at times he goes after the right as well, but mostly he's spent his time opposing people like myself. That hasn't actually given him any sort of prominence whatsoever, because there is no world view. There is no real future that you want. There is no perfect society, a perfect design that you have in mind. It's just pure reactionary bullshit. This is a problem with centrism in general, okay? This is why centrists lose to the right all the time, because the right, even if we disagree with them, and I certainly do, have a worldview. They have a grand design. And they are constantly advocating for said grand design. They are not directionless. They are moving the country towards that project. It is a fascist project, and they are successfully moving this country in that direction. And we're there now. But centrists look to that and say, you know, extreme right and the extreme left are just the same. I am the moderate here, not realizing that year over year, the right gets more reactionary, more radical, and pushes the Overton window further and further to the right. So the centrist position becomes more and more right-wing. This is the issue.
Actually caring about deplatforming, or do you think, I mean, I'm going to be honest, your community, your podcast host, Dan Saltman, has been involved in mass letter campaigns to people like Richie Torres to get people deplatformed, and I'm obviously referring to Hasan. I agree with you on some things, I agree with Hasan on some things. I'm kind of in the middle on that progressive end. However, I do feel like there's been some content creators, Asmongold, H3H3, all those kind of.
This is the thing that I never understand, by the way, because it's like when people say I agree with Hasan on some things and I agree with Destiny on some things, I will never understand it, because like the things that you agree with me on, if you're progressive, you probably just agree with me and that's it, right? Like what could you possibly agree with Destiny on? Because everything that he has designed when he has tried to create this like unique space in the progressive side of politics is just anti-me. Like what? To be able to say the slurs or something? I don't know. I don't really get it.
Who have all been involved in this push to deplatform people. And I feel like it's now coming back to bite you in the butt, for example. I mean, your name's being mentioned in congressional hearings now. I'm just wondering, do you feel any responsibility for that?
I think there's a huge difference between deplatforming somebody by pressuring a platform to take action on something versus like the FCC and.
Yeah, except he also mentioned Richie Torres. Dan Saltman didn't just try to do a deplatforming initiative by using the ADL, which is ridiculous, because the moment that you use the ADL, you're not pressuring the platform directly. You're pressuring a advocacy group that has a lot of institutional persuasive power because they have congresspersons that they can rely on.
So that in and of itself is a redirection that does not make sense.
Donald Trump pressuring organizations to do things.
We agree on that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think people have a right to have their voices heard on things. People have had to be deplatformed from things, whether I agree or disagree. Sometimes, it is what it is, but I think it's fundamentally a different conversation than what we saw happen just recently with Kimmel and the entirety of the Conservative Party supporting it. I think is a very scary thing. Yeah, but I mean, there are some things that people think they have like an absolutist position on, but their position is a lot more malleable. They just haven't seen it tested yet. All of us agree in some level of deplatforming, right? If some guy were to go live on a YouTube stream and he was just abusing dogs all day, just punch him in the head, I think everybody would well, this guy should probably be banned. There's going to be some level where we're all well, this is probably not.
Yeah, except you're talking about someone who has an anti-Israel position. I agree with that. That's my position as well. Okay. Also, one is a criminal act, for the record. It's an illegal criminal act for good reason. What's crazy is I'm not doing that, and you're equivocating my commentary that is now the popular commentary, that is now the popular position, for the record. You said the term top speak the other day. Could you define that? I have no idea what that is. I don't think I've ever said that unless I misspoke or you misheard me. What the top speak? You think cop speak? Is that what you did say it? Why is it that you immediately go, you did say it? I think you misheard me. I said cop speak probably when referencing the Tyler Robinson text messages where he says where he calls the police vehicle a squad car, or even refers to his own car as a vehicle, saying things along. Why is it always us mishearing, and you never misspeaking? Well, considering that I also first said I probably misspoke, you are literally mishearing. And this guy also misheard the other chatter. Yes, cop speak. I didn't hear what the chatter said. I thought he wrote cop speak. So maybe both of these instances, an unfortunate byproduct of mishearing, including but not limited to the fact that I already factored in that I might have misspoken first. That's the first thing I did.
Okay, watching Hasan, clap and cheer with his chat when Houthis are hijacking ships in the ocean and saying that they're based in Awesome, I think is an insanely unhinged thing to watch on a
Oh, is it? Is it? That's interesting. As opposed to what you do, which is watching Israel do a genocide and go, it's based and awesome. I think the anti-genocide position, which is, luckily, I don't even have to say that this is just not only the moral position, but now I can say it's the popular position as well. The anti-genocide position is the popular position. Yes, the only foreign nation in the region that is actively trying to penalize Israel for doing a genocide is on the right side of history. It's that simple. It's that simple. The biggest problem here for Sex Pestany, aside from his proclivity towards engaging in really horrible actions on that front in his own personal life, is that he chose the wrong horse to back. He thought he could just maintain the pro-Israel position, the pro-genocide position, and he would never actually arrive at a unique moment in time where the large majorities of the public would say, hey, that's really up. He thought he could gesture vaguely at pre-established American foreign policy positions and say, Israel is doing the right thing. It's not a genocide. And anyone that actually is trying to fight back against Israel's genocide is actually morally not in the right, but in the wrong. And they're all terrorists. He backed himself into a corner. And in the past, instead of offering a nuanced perspective on any given issue that pertains to American foreign policy, and be able to bastardize his opposition's position, mine, when it came to Ukraine, and falsely claim that I was actually against Ukraine or I was pro-Russia, all these different things, he was able to get a lot of mileage out of that. So I think he did that with Israel as well, thinking that he would have the same kind of support. Of course, not only was that a bastardization of my viewpoint on Ukraine, even though he did get a lot of mileage out of that, and a lot of people still to this day, especially on Reddit, think I'm pro-Russia, which is so insane, but what are you going to do? Genocide is so black and white that his perspective on Israel, the unconditional support to Israel, became unimaginably unpopular.
Media platform, especially by their own rules, that say you can't champion terrorist violence. So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be some level of like obviously disagreement that people should be allowed to have across social media platforms, but I think it's gotten really extreme on a lot of them right now.
So you
Yeah,
mentioned
he said, my contextualization of the Ansar Allah movement in Yemen's actions against the genocidal state of Israel is akin to animal abuse. Okay? That is what he just tied this argument up with. At some point, people have to recognize that this is not good argumentation whatsoever. Okay? Just because the speaker is confident doesn't mean that the contents of the things that he's saying is actually appropriate. You should be able to think and reflect and think critically on what he is actually saying. It's just debate, bro, through and through. That's why I've always said he's like the left's Ben Shapiro. Well, not even the left, but like a liberal centrist Ben Shapiro.